Hello YouTube, my name is Octopus Joey, and Nintendo is one of my favorite game companies, if not my absolute favorite. Why? Because I'm nostalgia biased. But in all seriousness, Nintendo has made quality games almost exclusively. Almost exclusively. Yes, while almost every video game developed by Nintendo is good, there are a few that aren't. And no, I'm not just saying that because I hate the Creators Program. Every company that makes games for a long time is gonna screw up in some areas. Which is why I've decided to make a list of what I think are the
top 5 worst games made by Nintendo.
But not without a huge disclaimer. This is only my opinion, and if you disagree, that's fine. And if you want, let me know why in the comments. Now for a few rules. First of all, every game on this list must be developed by Nintendo. No third-party games on Nintendo systems like Superman 64 or Sonic Boom. No games from second-party developers like Intelligent Systems or HAL. And no games by first-party developers like Retro Studios. Every game on this list has to have been developed by Nintendo. Another rule, the games had to have been flawed when they were released. So I'm not going to include the arcade versions of Donkey Kong or Mario Bros. Because of their controls, since there wasn't a standard for jumping controls at the time. And I'm not going to include The Legend of Zelda on NES because of its unstable save feature. No games that haven't aged well, only games that have had legitimate flaws since their release dates. Number 5. I will say that I do consider this game to be good, but still one of the more flawed Nintendo games. And I think it's awesome that Nintendo has had such good quality assurance that I wasn't able to think of 5 bad games to put on the list. Good job, Nintendo. Anyway, say what you want about Zelda 2 being different, I think that's forgivable because the series didn't have a standard formula at the time. Say what you want about the scaling on the overworld, I think it's just supposed to be a representation of traveling across the world. Really fast, apparently. What I do consider flaws, however, are the non-intuitiveness, unbalanced difficulty, and the unforgiving game over system. You can usually find out how to progress by talking to people in towns, but then there's stupid stuff like having to know to crouch and press B next to a table, or repeatedly talk to a tiny sleeping blob. It's too cute! This is the kind of game that no one who's played it all the way through will shame you for using a guide. The unbalanced difficulty mostly comes from Death Mountain. Death Mountain is a confusing maze with ridiculously strong enemies for that point in the game, considering you have to go through it before the 3rd dungeon. It makes for a ridiculous difficulty spike. I wouldn't mind it so much if the game wasn't so unforgiving. If you die 3 times in Go Game Over, you start at the beginning of the overworld. You still have your weapons and upgrades and everything, but it's a pain getting back where you need to be. Sometimes you have to pass through a cave you've already passed through, pass a bridge you've already passed, past these giant fences you've already passed, just to get back to a temple you've already been through, all while dealing with randomly spawning enemies on the overworld! The first Zelda started you at the beginning of the temple you were in when you went game over, so why doesn't this game? Also, when you go game over, you lose all your experience points. Nothing is more frustrating than going game over when you're about to level up. Imagine you're stranded in the desert and you're about to get out, but because you stepped on 3 rocks, you have to go back further into the desert. But since that isn't frustrating enough, you also lose your leg muscles. One could argue that it would put more stress on the save battery if it saved experience points. Okay, but why reset it every time you go game over? Why not just every time you reset your system? Now I do really like the RPG elements, and I absolutely love the combat, especially the downward strike. I love the open and adventurous feel it has, possibly even more than Wind Waker's. I also love the dungeon layouts. Some people found them confusing, I personally didn't. Except the Great Palace. And I do think the positives in this game significantly outweigh the negatives, but the fact that those negatives are there is enough to put it on this list. Number 4. I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for this, but Mario Kart 64. Now, I don't think this game is bad, but I don't think it's that good either. I find it kind of meh. First of all, the controls are extremely slippery. Super Mario Kart had a reason to have really slippery controls. It had a D-pad instead of an analog stick. It only had 2 turning speeds because of the drift button, and it mostly had sharp turns. But instead of turning the analog slightly to turn slowly, your turning speed ranges from slippery to way too slippery. The whole point of an analog stick is to be able to move at more varying speeds. Even Super Mario 64, the first game to use analog controls, does that. I'm seriously convinced that Mario Kart 64's analog controls are just digital controls on an analog stick. Another minor problem with the controls is how hard it is to turn away from something on short notice. If you're approaching an obstacle and you have to move on short notice, you're probably gonna hit it. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it's pretty noticeable in Bowser's Castle, Toad's Turnpike, and Frappe Snowland. The other really big flaw that I think is partially age-related but still could have been done better is the cheating AI. The AI has an unfair advantage off-screen, being less likely to run into obstacles that are very easy for you to run into. Also, they teleport. And boy do they teleport. Yes, I know they had to make them disappear off-screen because of the Nintendo 64's limitations, but I still think they could have taken some more preventative measures. They can go faster than you if they get too far behind. Why is that necessary? I also don't like how random the game is. The rubber banding is ridiculous, and it seems like you can just slip out of control at random. I've had it happen just by turning. That'd be like if in a 2D Mario game, Mario ran off the edge because you were holding the dash button. I think it might have something to do with turning left and right repeatedly, but you pretty much have to do that to readjust yourself because of how sensitive the controls are. There are things I really like about the game, such as the music, the track design, and the multiplayer. I will say that Zelda 2 has more flaws than Mario Kart 64, but it also has more positives to outweigh the negatives. Also, I think Mario Kart 64 is a better game than Super Mario Kart overall, but I also think that Super Mario Kart's flaws are more justifiable by its age. If you like this game, good. I personally find it kind of meh and wish I liked it more. Number 3. I do appreciate what Rob the Robot did for the gaming industry. He helped Nintendo market the NES as a toy rather than a game console, which helped get it into stores after it was largely believed that console gaming was over in North America. That doesn't mean it didn't suck. First of all, only 2 games were made for this thing, Gyromite and Stack Up. I chose Stack Up for this list over Gyromite for 3 reasons. First of all, Gyromite can be played without Rob if you're okay with using 2 controllers or you have 2 players. Second, Stack Up runs on the honor system. You can literally win the game by pressing start. Third, probably the biggest reason, this was the game that focused more on Rob's functionality. And he's so slow! To make Rob's arms go from the top to the bottom, you have to make the scientist guy press the down button 5 times with 5-second delays in between. Now turn that into an entire game. Yeah. Number 2. Let me ask you, would you rather buy a Wii Remote by itself or pay a little extra money and have a game come with it? That is the only reason why Wii Play sold so well. First of all, I don't think minigame compilations should be sold unless they're either a pack-in title or made to promote something. Wii Sports is a pack-in title, and it shows what the Wii Remote can do just fine, so Wii Play really doesn't need to exist. The best way to do minigames, in my opinion, is to make them part of the game rather than the whole game, like in Mario Party or the Mario games on the DS. In Super Mario 64 DS, they're essentially an escape from the main game, which is essentially an escape from real life. Wii Play is a minigame compilation with only 9 minigames, and only 3 of them are good. Super Mario 64 DS had 36, and not only are they better, they make up a very small portion of the game. Anyway, shooting range is boring, Find Me is even more boring, table tennis is practically automatic, Pose Me is oddly fun, laser hockey is glitchy and unresponsive, billiards is awful, fishing is awkward, charge is pretty fun, and tanks is definitely the best game in the whole collection. That's 3 good games and 6 bad ones, and the only 3 good games in the bunch are below the quality of an average free-to-play iPhone game. This was made in 2006, an average free-to-play Flash game. The only reason this game was made was to sell more Wii Remotes. It's nothing but shovelware. Yeah, Nintendo of all companies made shovelware. Number 1. Remember how I made a joke earlier about Mario running off a cliff because you were holding the dash button? Well, it turns out there is a first-party Mario game where that happens. Super Mario Land. Super Mario Land does not control well at all. First of all, they're very sensitive, as if they downscaled the sprites without downscaling the controls. In Super Mario Bros., if you subtly tap the D-pad, you move 1 pixel. In Super Mario Land, if you subtly tap the D-pad, you move the length of an entire block. And if you try to jump too close to the ledge while running, you just run off. Second, the momentum is incredibly inconsistent. I've tried to figure out how it works, but I can't. If you jump off a ledge, you fall at an average speed. If you run off a ledge, you fall way too fast. If you try to adjust your jump, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. This game's controls would be a little more forgivable if the game didn't focus so much on platforming. Toward the end, the game has a lot of platforming. I'm okay with the sprites being smaller because they might not have known the hardware well enough to optimize it properly. But I don't see why it only has 4 worlds with 3 levels. Super Mario Bros. Had 8 worlds with 4 levels. That's 32 levels. Why does this game only have 12? I highly doubt they were pressed for space considering how small the sprites are. The level design is kind of meh. Some parts are memorable, some parts aren't. And sections of levels are reused a lot. Here's a pit with spikes that you have to ride a rock on to get past. And now here's another pit with spikes that you have to ride on to get past. And now here's another. I do like the shooting levels though. Those are awesome. The best part of the level design is the secrets. There are a lot of secrets. I also really love the music, especially Chai Kingdom. I also like the departure from the Mushroom Kingdom. It helps the game stand out more. But those are the game's only positives to me. I hate the range of the Super Ball power-up, I hate the platforming, I hate the controls, I don't like the length, and there really isn't that much to redeem it. I don't even see any of its flaws as forgivable by age except its graphics. This game just feels dumbed down compared to the first 3 Super Mario Bros. Games. And those are my top 5 worst games made by Nintendo. Again, only my opinion, feel free to disagree. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. My name is Octopus Joey. Bye. Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and click either of the videos on the screen for more. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channels at youtube.com/octojoey and youtube.com/octojoeylp, and follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/octojoey.